Today we are looking at a CDTV. This is Commodore's first foray into the consumer CD player market, and it is basically an interactive device. If you've heard of a Philips CDI, then you'll be familiar with the concept, and if you've seen the CD32 from Commodore, then you'll know this is to the Amiga 500 what the CD32 is to the Amiga 1200. So inside here basically is an Amiga 500 and a CD player and a consumer front panel. So let's take it apart and have a look. So we have here the main board. There's a couple of big chips missing. That I think is Gary, and that I believe is Agnes. This is a, you probably can't see the legend on it, it's an A500/A2000 2 meg chip adapter, so it basically gives 2 megs of chip RAM to the Agnes. We don't have that Agnes, those are very expensive A500 plus Agneses. And so we are going to have to take that and that from the Denise board in order to get this working. We don't have a power supply, but we've got what I think is an ATX connector, and I guess we can use a Pico ATX in there, or possibly something else that gives an ATX. This is the mains connection to what is normally sat in there. It uses the American convention, and I don't know which way round black and white is in terms of live and neutral. So we're not going to use that anyway. The other issue we have here is these little ribbon cables are just flapping about. These connectors are notorious for breaking. And we've actually got a kit supplied by Glenn to replace those and fix those, so we can do that. We've also got new Kickstart ROMs. These are the enhanced Kickstart for the CD player, and this is a regular Amiga 500 Kickstart, and we have those here. Looking on the front panel, I don't know if you can see it, but that switch, there we go. That button there, the fast forward button, is missing. There's just a little push switch inside there. I don't know if we can 3D print a replacement for that. I'll have to look to see if there's a design for it. If we can, then maybe we'll do that. Otherwise, to operate that, we're going to need to use a long pokey thing. Bit of a pain, but never mind. It does look as if it might have been recapped. Now, all these electrolytics have got red splodges on the top of them, which is normally indicative that something has been done, and they don't look like the OG caps that would have been in there. So I've never worked on one of these before, so it's going to be interesting. Before we start putting new chips in there and trying to make it go, let's just take the main board off and have a look underneath, because I am curious. I want to thank PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Over the past couple of months we've been enjoying their purple promotion, and we've got a bunch of purple PCBs that we're going to make up and have a look at. If you want to get your own purple PCBs, then all you have to do is upload your Gerber files or pick one of their shared projects and select purple as the colour, and off you go, and a week later you will, like me, have your purple PCBs. They also do CNC machining and 3D printing and sheet metal work and all that other fancy stuff. So if you need a purple PCB or any other colour, then check them out, www.pcbway.com. So we've got a bunch of connectors and cables dotted around this PCB. I'm going to take photographs of them just so that I know which cables go where. Okay, now these I notice are both 2-pin connectors, and they are both red and black. That one already has a red line on it. There you go, that one has a red mark on it, so we know that the red is on the right. So these are not plugged in, actually that one is. So we can release that. To release that, you push it down on here and then it just lifts out. They're slightly unusual connectors. All the screws holding this board down are missing. These under here are the expansion ports, and the screws holding those on are also missing. These look a bit like IDE cables, but they're not IDE cables. That's all the cables off. Now, the little hex nut things that normally hold the ports on the back are also missing. This goes to the expansion port. I think we can just pull that out. Here we go. So that's the modulator, and it should just lift off. There we go. So we can take the tray off and just look at the back of the PCB. So the screws holding that side are still present, but the screws from the top are missing. So under here the tray is absolutely filthy. That's definitely going to need a clean. This is the MIDI port, or the MIDI ports. And this is the CD-ROM drive. Massive chunky thing. There is a PCB under there somewhere. And this is a sort of memory expansion thing. Slot. So I don't know that that is PCMCIA, but it's a kind of sort of thing. And it needs cleaning. It all needs cleaning. I'm going to do that off camera because you don't want to watch cleaning, really, do you? It's not a cleaning channel. Tim's retro cleaning service. And then we'll investigate this. I think taking this off is kind of complicated because there's mechanisms and interlockings and stuff. I'm going to have to watch some other videos, and oh, I can see in there, you can see some capacitors popping up through that metal plate, and they've got red markings on the top as well. So I would have thought if somebody had come in here and recapped it, they would have made some effort to clean it. But that's just me. So we take the front panel off. Basically we're going to strip it all down and then clean it and put it back together. I don't know what size screws these are, or whether we can get replacements for the screws that are missing. Right. So there's a PCB on here. That's the power switch. Okay, we'll come back to that. This expansion needs to come off because it is absolutely filthy. This is some kind of a RAM card thing, sort of PCMCIA style, I guess. But I don't think there was anything ever made for it. off. Now we'll take the CD tray out. I think this has never come off before, so almost certainly the CD board has not been recapped, I would guess. At least if it has, they did the screws up really, really tight. Not much to see from that side in terms of capacitors, because everything is basically on the top. We'll come back to it anyway. Right. So this case needs to be cleaned. I'm going to go away, clean that downstairs, because you don't really need to see me do that. And then we shall see what we shall see. Before we get to the CD tray, I'm going to take the front panel apart. I've already cleaned it to some extent, and then we can replace these. These are all the same size, they're 10-way ribbon cables. I think that needs to come off. Okay, so we've got an electrofluorescent display. That is quite dirty on the inside. Okay, I'm just having a look at this button set. It's clearly broken off. I think that's going to... We may be able to 3D print that. Single-sided board. And we've got push fit connectors, so we've got 3 cables and we've got 6 connectors. So which way round do these go? Which way is pin 1, I wonder? They go like that. I would suspect it doesn't matter as long as they are consistent. Let's take these out. Desoldering montage. There's one. There's 2. And there's 3. So does it matter which way round these go? I don't think so, as long as it's consistent. Usual thing, hold it down with a bit of tape and do one end. So I'm going to do the end that's not the earth. I'm going to hold it down. This board is really sticky. I'm putting way too much solder on because I'm so used to double-sided boards and expecting it to fill the gap and fill the hole. And of course it doesn't do that. Okay, that's much better. So I'm going to clean the rest of this front panel up and then we can put it back. That's a lot cleaner than it was. You can see from the number of thingies, the back of that clear panel was absolutely awful. Now, I'm not going to unscrew these. I found a thing on Thingiverse that should 3D print a replacement for this. I'm not sure exactly how much of that button assembly needs to be printed. Hopefully it's just, I think these come in pairs. I don't want to take it apart until we need to. So I'm going to leave that for the time being, because I can't 3D print anything at the moment because my printer is doing something else. So we need to put these connectors in. I think they did it that way, right. We need to have those in place so that when we plug it into the main board, when we put the new connectors onto there, we put them in the right way round. So I'm going to fit this back, but only fit it loosely, partly so that we don't lose the screws. Right, I'm not going to do them up to any degree, just so that we don't lose any threadiness. So before we hit up the CD mechanism, let us come back to this. Right, we're going to replace these connectors. These are the connectors. I'm going to turn it round this way. You're probably not going to see what I'm doing. Right, let's work out which way round these are supposed to go. Okay. Right. So that's going to go in there like that. Which means that's going to go around there like that. So that's the board in the case. This is the front panel on the case. That goes like that. It goes in there that way around. Yes, that is correct. So we can put these final two in. Okay, there they are. So where do we go from here? As far as this board is concerned, we need to put these two chips in and replace these ROMs. So let's do that, then this board is done and we can set it aside. So here's the Denise. It's got a 68030 accelerator on it, which you haven't seen because I never managed to get it working. So there is a video on that if you are a patron. It's a Patreon exclusive. Please check out my Patreon if you would like to see it. So let's take this off. got to get the right layer because there are multiple extenders, that's the word. So we need the Agnes, Aggie, and we need, I think, the Gary. That's Denise out. That's Gary out. We can stick him back in. So now back with the CDTV. That's the edge, that's the edge. Pin 1 is there, pin 1 is there. Double check before I push it down. Okay, that is in. Gary, pin 1, pin 1. There we go, and we might as well do the ROMs at the same time. U34, U35. Identified, that's U35, that's U34. And they go in, so U35 goes in from the bottom, it's full size anyway. Correct way, U34, U34. I really don't like them using just ordinary polystyrene, that is horrible. Should be anti-static. So this is the kickstart ROM. So that goes in there. There's 2 feet extra which are cut off. That shouldn't be a problem. So that's the main board ready now. It can go in. Before we do, let's have a look at the CD mechanism. So this is the CD mechanism. I'm giving the top of the case a bit of a clean. It does look as if somebody has been in here before. You can see telltale scratch marks on the case. The way it works, it's got a caddy, so you put the CD in the caddy and then this goes into the slot, and that opens the little drive thing in the caddy, and then out it comes. There's a mechanism inside that opens that up. Hopefully whoever put this back has put it back right. Let's take this apart and see what we can see. So let's take the board off. These are pretty stiff. Maybe they're just the wrong screws because they are all different types. Some of them are machine screws, some of them look like they are case screws. That one's a machine screw. So we've got 2 machine screws and 2 what look like case screws. Right. I'm going to clean this stuff as I go along because it's going to be grubby. Yeah, there's definitely marks on there. That's got Loctite on it or something. If seal broken, warranty void. Seal is most definitely broken. It looks like it's been greased as well. You can see grease in there. I'm not too worried about the PCB. So I think someone's already been in. Let's just see if we can see the mechanism. And yeah, you can see the door opens as it goes in. And that comes down, comes up and out. Ah. Okay, now it's stuck. Ah, there we go. Just needed to push that in a bit more. Okay. I think the mechanism is working. There's a certain amount of springy stuff and having to get things exactly aligned right if you start taking this off. So I'm not going to, unless it turns out that we need to. Right, so let's put it all back together and see if it will actually work. We clearly don't have all the right screws. I wonder what size they are. If they're M3, I have a load of M3s that I can put in. I will check. Yep, they are standard M3 screws, so I won't reuse those ones. I'll put fresh M3 screws in. These are M3x8s. They don't really need to be M3x8s. M3x6s would do fine, but I don't have those. Anyhow, it's no longer trying to hold it together with plastic case screws. Okay, there we go. Let's start reassembling. Bottom tray. So in this goes, locating lugs on there. Let's try some M3x6 screws. Yep, that's perfectly fine. So that is in. Now we'll fit the front panel. Okay, I've put the main PCB back into its tray, so we should be able to slot this in like that. Now, I haven't printed a new thing for the front there because the printer is still in use, so we'll plug this in, hook it up, see if it works, and maybe come back to that. That's our 3 ribbon cables plugged in. And here, that's that one. So that should be everything. I've got a screw in here. One other thing we haven't done is put this back in. This goes into here, it plugs into this connector this way up. And these rails from the back of the there we go. And I'm just going to use a couple of my M3x6 screws because the existing ones appear to be fairly well stripped. I'm guessing this was designed in Germany because all the screws are metric. So there's no guarantee this is going to work. Got the Amiga plugged into the back to the video. The Pico ATX out of my Denise is plugged into this one. Bit of protective plastic because that's metal and we don't know what's going to happen. Never been tried. Mains is on. We've got blue light on the power brick. Ah, we've got thing on the display. That's a good sign. Now I've got no remote or anything like that, so all I've got to control it with is these buttons on the front. Let's see what happens. Oh, and I press the power. Lights. But as far as the screen is concerned, nothing. No black screen, just absolutely nothing. Okay, I've got to take it apart again because rather foolishly I put the CD Caddy in off camera and it's obviously not going in properly and now it won't come out. That's wedged in there somehow, so I've got to take that apart and see what's wrong. I suspect the person who recapped it didn't put it together quite right, but we'll take a look and we'll see if we can fix that. Okay, clearly it's stuck in there, it's not coming out, so we need to take this plate off. Now this is a delicate kind of mechanism under here that has got springs and stuff in it. So there is a video on this thing by Chris Edwards, and if you are taking one of these apart, I would recommend that you watch it. I'll put a link in the description or in the corner. Okay, that is definitely wedged in. So that needs to be on a spring to push that back. And this is the spring. So this very bit keeps the lens clean, but when this goes back, that spring has to go behind there to push that into place. So let's just give the lens a quick clean with some IPA. Just very, very gently. So these actually, I believe, are supposed to come off. Now I think that might be a problem. It's supposed to slide on that spindle. I think that's got some old grease or something caked on it, which I'm going to try and clean off. I think that was part of the problem, it was sticking. And yeah, the same with that one, it's really, really sticky. That, I think, is the problem. I don't know what it is that's been on here, but it's caked up and gone hard and sticky, and yeah. See, that's much freer now. Now the way this goes back together is that this actually fits onto here. I think it's this way up. These little pins go into these holes. Like that. And the same with this side. And then the spring goes into there. I think that needs to be pushed forwards. No. Right, finally I think I've got it. This one is on with the spring in the right place. This one I've taken off and set it so that it's actually installed. Then we can get that one in, slide it sideways. That should now screw in. And hopefully Bob's your uncle. Let's try it. Perfect, look at that. Just tighten these screws up. So unfortunately the key element of actually how to do it didn't get shown in Chris Edwards' video. We saw some of the preparation, but that step, taking this one off, furling it in, right, we didn't see that, but now that is in, and I'm happy with that. So let's go back to the front panel, because I've 3D printed a little thing that should replace the missing button, or the broken button. So take the PCB out. Now you can see this fast forward button is missing. We've got, hopefully, but I have a horrible suspicion this is all one thing. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure how that is supposed to go on there. I mean, I guess like that. I don't know how that was supposed to fit. So if that goes in there, I suppose that could go like that, maybe. Nope. Or like that, maybe. Nope. Well, it was a nice try, but for this works in a CDTV replacement button, it was totally useless because it clearly didn't fit. So unfortunately we are without a fast forward button. Never mind. Really nice 3D print, unfortunately does not work in a CDTV, which is the entire thing it was designed to do. Getting it back together, so the drive is in. Let's just try it. That's much better. Okay, so I think that's fixed. I'll put the main board back on now. Okay, so we're back here again. So the CD mechanism, I believe, is fixed. Let's plug it back in, see if it actually does anything still, or does nothing still. And then, yeah, we'll see what we see. Power it on at the mains, we get the light come up and the flashing thingy. Absolutely nothing on the screen, but it's not powered on. So let's power it on. Oh, it was powered on. Now I can hear the fan going. But you see, nothing happens. See the light there flashes on. If I press the CDTV button, that goes on and off. That comes on. No, it does nothing. We know the display works, but that may well be automated inside the display circuit. But that comes out now. Yay. So the next thing to do is going to be to diagnose this board. It's going to be kind of like an Amiga 500. Hopefully we should be able to put a diagram in there and the serial port and all that stuff, and that will be next time. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe in order to see when the next video gets released, and that all helps the channel. If you want to support the channel, please check out my Patreon. There are exclusive videos on there that do not appear on YouTube. So yeah, it's another way of supporting the channel, and it's a better way of supporting the channel, in fact, than, you know, ads and so on. But I'll see you next time when we try and get this Amiga working. See ya. Bye.